Joyful Life Guide. I am your host, Lucy Walsh, and here we are. It's a brand new podcast. I'm so excited. It's 5 o'clock in the morning. I just couldn't wait. I wanted to dig in. Welcome to the Joyful Life Guide. Oh man, are we in for a ride? The beginning of things always thrills me because I know what's in store. I know the transformation that's about to happen. And I say this all the time to my coaching clients on their first day of work with me. I am so honored to guide you through, and I consider it a huge responsibility and my life's work, part of my life's work. But it's an honor to be here with you and host as your guide to this joyful life that we are all striving to live every day. I'm going to tell you what's in store for you. I'm going to tell you a bit about myself. It would be rude not to as your host. Some of you might be listeners from my last podcast, my last incredibly successful worldwide podcast, The Lucy and Annabelle Show, with my beautiful friend, Annabelle Jones. So if you are, hello again. It's so great to have you back. And we already know each other pretty well. A little too well. If you're a new listener, welcome. And it's so great to meet you. And you should go check out the Lucy and Annabelle Show. There's 65 fantastic episodes to get into. So here I am, off on my own, and the Joyful Life Guide for me is an aspect of my coaching work as head of the Lucy Walsh Studio, which I started officially a few years ago. I work with clients all over the world as a personal mentality and life coach and music therapist. I really wanted to create this space within that work that I do because I feel compelled to share the life lessons that my clients and I uncover on a daily basis on the largest scale possible. It's really, really valuable stuff for all of us. This reminds me of when I was little. I had this silver boombox in my parents' living room, and I was obsessed with telling stories and getting my brother and sister to act out the parts with me, and I would direct them, and I would record myself doing this. And that record button to me was so powerful. It really struck me, even at 7 years old. It really made sense to me that to tell a story to my brother and sister is one thing. But the moment I press that record, that same story reaches infinity. It reaches the entire world. And I knew the power of that even then. So, of course, as time goes on, I'm hosting podcasts and reaching people on a global level. Here's my mission, really. The most generous thing that we can do for each other as humans is to compare notes on how to be human, on how to do this life. Nobody knows what they're doing. Nobody. Everybody's looking for answers. We are all afraid of dying. And we're all trying to outrun this fear of mortality and live while we're alive and make it count and have all the things our heart desires. It's not easy. So we look to each other. How are you doing this? I can't figure this out. Who knows the answer to this? How do I figure this out? Oh my gosh, here's how I did it. Look, this worked for me. I hadn't thought about that. This is a space for that. That's what the joyful life to me means. And I want to clarify, it's not about being happy all the time. That's just phony, fake shit. Joy and happiness are not the same thing. And we're going to explore that. So what's in it for you? What's in this podcast for you? That's what everybody wants to know, right? What's in it for me? Well, we're going to share life hacks, meditations, how-tos, stories. Some episodes I will be riffing, and I really want to hear from you guys. Anything that you want answers on, anything you want to compare notes on, you can always email me at workwithlucywalsh@gmail.com. Some episodes I will have guests on, incredible people from all walks of life who will share and compare their notes on how they achieved this or that. And other times I will be sharing actual sessions with clients. And if I do that, I'll always put the date in the show notes so that you know exactly when it's from. But through it all, I will be your guide in picking apart, breaking down this concept of what it means to live and create a joyful life. Not just saying it, not just what it means to someone else, but helping each and every one of you personally dig into your own lives in the way that these concepts apply to you. So you better get your journals ready, ladies and gentlemen, because we're digging in. We're gonna do the damn thing, okay? We will be sharing how-tos in the realms of career, money, building your own businesses. I'm going to share how I've done that with publishing my book, and how I created this coaching business, which is something that I felt was part of my calling in this lifetime. And I've taken that calling and turned it into something that I now get paid for. So we're going to talk about how to do that in your life. We're going to compare notes in the realm of love and intimacy, whether you desire a lasting life partner or you're having a love affair with yourself. That's the most fulfilling of all, by the way. We are talking about healing through trauma and PTSD, recovering after abuse and depression, and I'm going to get really personal with what I've been through that I think could be helpful. I bring you a lot of experience in actually being in the arena, doing things. I'm really big on goals to reality, on not just talking about your desires for years like most people do, but actually pulling desires into your life and living them as your reality. It's possible, I promise you. How do we do that? I will tell you. I have the secrets. That's actually one of my new digital courses, Goals to Reality Bootcamp, which I know there's a special discount rate for podcast listeners on that digital course. I believe it's 20% off, and you can actually get on the wait list for that new digital course. Just email that workwithlucywalsh@gmail.com and include that you're a podcast listener for that special discount. So there's a lot of riches here for you. Is everybody ready to get rich with joy? Good, I thought so. So as it's the beginning today, I think how we will dig in is I'm going to read the podcast summary as it's written online. And I really want to thank my team at the Lucy Walsh studio who's helped me put all this together. There's a lot of expansion going on right now. I'm very busy, and I am grateful for everyone who's helping me with that expansion. But before we dive into that podcast summary, I want to start a special ritual together on the show. Rituals are an important part in this joyful life. And I'm going to share something that's very personal to me. So when I was growing up, my mom had this little cup by the front door. And it had these angel cards in it, like 100 of them. And I'm going to actually put the link to those angel cards where you can buy them in the show notes. So I would pull one every day as I went out of the house. And I'm going to pass that on. We're going to do it together here at the beginning of every episode. Okay. So everybody close your eyes, especially if you're driving. Just kidding. I'm kidding. But let's all pull together collectively and just meditate for a moment on our intention for our time together, our intention for our day, the energy we're vibing on. Let's see what our shared vibe is, all right? I am pulling an angel card from the pot with my eyes closed, holding all of you in my mind, in my heart, feeling all of your vibes. Oh yeah, I feel it. All right, here's our angel card for our time together. Honesty. Honesty. And the picture on the angel card is an angel looking in a mirror. Wow. Well, I think honesty is pretty perfect for why we're here. It's definitely good for me to pull that card because I'm about to share some pretty personal stuff, and it's not easy, even for me. It's not easy. Working on this premiere episode of the podcast has actually been super challenging for me this week because it brings up a lot that I don't necessarily want to talk about, but I do believe it is helpful. Listen to the cat. You guys are going to get a lot of my cats in these episodes. I have 2 cats, Jessica, Daisy, Bing Bangs, and Gilbert. And right now, Gilbert is dying to be let into the room, so let me let him in. Gilbert, do you mind? Come in. Come in. The listeners are here. Do you mind? Did you want to join in on this honest conversation? Jesus. Okay. All right, so honesty. Let's move forward in the spirit of honesty, shall we? So here's the summary of the podcast. Lucy Walsh has a lot to teach about picking up life's shattered pieces after trauma. Having survived a stalker, escaped a high control group within a cult, and grown up inside the absurdity of show business. Transforming her adversity into a universal guide for resilience and fulfillment, Lucy has now built a successful international coaching business, found true love during a pandemic, become a published author and national spokeswoman advocating for elderly companionship programs in nursing homes. The Joyful Life Guide is the podcast for all humans who desire the impact they were born for. Lucy hosts with workable advice, energetic principles, and spiritual solutions to help people reclaim their power and thrive in life, business, and love. So that is it. That is the thing. Let's not skip over the opening of that podcast summary. Has a lot to teach about picking up life's shattered pieces after trauma. Having survived a stalker, escaped a high control group within a cult, and grown up inside the absurdity of show business. Here we go. Honesty. Okay. Rewind my life 5 years ago. I was a completely different person, and my life did not look the same as it does today. I was in a living hell. 4 things, I consider them miracles, happened in quick succession to change that. From October 4th, 2019 to April 20th, 2020, so within that 6-7 months, 4 things happened that saved my life and put me on the path to this incredibly joyful life that I have created today. The first thing that happened was on October 4th, 2019, when a stalker showed up at my door. It was a terrifying, traumatizing ordeal that lasted 4 months until he was finally arrested and served with a restraining order. The LAPD was involved. A private investigator was involved. I was living in hotels. I was afraid for my life. This man had violent intentions. When he was arrested, he had weapons on him. Every time he would break into my apartment building over those months before he was arrested, he was wearing latex gloves and masks. There's so much more to say about it, which we will visit over time as we discuss healing after PTSD And I want to hear from you who have had similar experiences. But my point here is that it was a roller coaster that flipped my life on its head. But my life needed to be flipped on its head. It was the greatest gift from the universe because it was the catalyst for me waking up from a situation I had already been in for 10 years. And that was, yes, I was in a high control group posing as an acting class under the thumb of a narcissistic abuser posing as an acting coach, all under the umbrella of a cult since 2010. And by the time the stalker honed in on me in 2019, I was so brainwashed, so isolated, so weakened, physically, mentally, emotionally, financially. My depression was so deep, it was so physically painful that I would be crying, tears drenching my pillow before I would even open my eyes in the morning. I was still functioning all that time, but barely. I was running on fumes. I was a shell of myself, a shadow of myself. I was still working as an actress. I was doing my music. I was showing up when I needed to be on red carpets. I was smiling. You would have never known that I was in this living hell. But I had no money, no relationships with my family. I had completely cut myself off from anyone who wasn't within that high control group. I had nothing. I was flying at high speed toward a brick wall, and I knew what awaited me if something didn't change. And that spiritual, SWAT team intervention that I desperately needed in order to not die in that situation came in the form of this stranger with intention to hurt me showing up at my door. And it's so strange to say that that was a life-saving miracle. But it was. The stalker was a near-death experience for me. And anybody who's had a near-death experience knows that it's a wake-up call. It gave me the opportunity to look at where I was, to ask myself, if you died today, is the way that your life is right now okay with you? And the answer was no. And that jolted me into gathering the courage to finally escape the abuse. I had tried to escape several times over the decade I was there. But if you've been in that situation, the narcissist can get you face to face. You're already so fucked that chances are you're not going to follow through with leaving. And that had happened to me several times. So with the stalker's arrival at my door, jiggling that door handle, trying to get in as I watched in absolute horror, that moment started my wake up. You were there for it, Gilbert. You remember it. He says, yes, I do. It was terrifying. So the second thing that happened in quick succession to save my life of this living hell was that I met the man I would marry, William Sweeny, on January 17th, just a few months after the stalker. So when I met him, which is a fascinating story for another episode, I knew that he was someone that I would seriously be with. And I knew that I could not start a truthful relationship with this man and stay where I was. It wasn't going to work. I had to choose. This was an impasse. Because in the high control group, your love life was monitored, your love life was exploited, it was discussed publicly to manipulate and humiliate you, so you either lied about it or didn't have a love life. Being in any abusive situation turns you into a liar because you will do anything to avoid conflict with your abuser. It's a matter of survival. So when I met Will, that was the second catalyst that jolted me into gathering my strength to leave. And my relationship with him, who he is as a person, has been a huge support and foundational structure these past 4 years in my healing and moving through the recovery after the abuse. And as we discuss matters of the heart, I'm excited to share what Will and I uncover on a daily basis in our relationship, the challenges, the gifts that any relationship brings into our lives, and how our relationships hold a mirror to ourselves. So interesting that we got this honesty angel card with the angel looking at itself in the mirror. That's the point of relationships in our lives. I still have a lot of walls. We all do. I still don't know how to do love, how to be married. I still don't even know if I really believe in marriage. A lot of it to me seems like man-made bullshit. But what's at the core of a true partnership with somebody is what we will dig into from a lot of different angles. And I'm looking forward to comparing notes with you all because we're all going through it, whether you're solo or partnered or whatever. The third miracle in quick succession that saved my life was the pandemic a few months after I met Will. On March 18th, everything shut down in Los Angeles, including the theater where the narcissist conducted her acting classes. And that was a physical escape that I knew I had to take because I would probably never get that physical window of escape again, where the narcissist could not get me face to face. And as all that was going on, the stalker, I was still in the high control group. I met Will, the pandemic happened and everything got shut down. It was finally on April 20th that I took my escape from the high control group, and that put me on the path to healing. And my life has gradually exploded into the incredibly joyful experience that it is today, where instead of waking up with tears on my pillow before I open my eyes, I wake up with a smile on my lips before I open my eyes. And that is the fucking truth. So wherever you are at in that process, wherever you're at on that spectrum from a living hell to joy, I'm here for you. I am your guide. We are going to do this together. I am holding space for you. I see you, I hear you, and you are not alone. So these are just a few of my life experiences that I bring to our discussion, that I feel I can take what I've been through and turn it into something that might be helpful to someone else. I see our experiences that way. It always seems to me like I envision how certain people who live in nature will kill an animal and use every part of that animal and give gratitude to that animal as it's killed. They don't waste anything, right? They use the meat, they use the bones, they use the fur, they use every part of that animal for good. And that's how I feel about my experiences. That's the way it makes sense to me. In that way, it turns our traumas, our difficult life experiences into a gift. I don't say that lightly. There are things in our lives that just don't get easier, but at least we can, try to do something constructive with it, right? Otherwise, it eats us up and makes us sick and all kinds of things. All right, so we didn't even get to my childhood and how insane it was to grow up in the entertainment industry, but healing our inner children, empowering our inner child to express itself joyfully in this adult body we're walking around in. So I want to wrap this up with a bottom line. That the reason I stayed in that abuse situation for all the years that I did was because I believed the lies that the narcissist told me about what would happen if I left her. If you've had a similar experience, you know that you are brainwashed into believing that you will have nothing if you leave. Your life will be over. You're the failure. You're the joke. You're the one who couldn't cut it. You'll never work again. You'll have nothing. And you believe them because you have nothing outside of them. That's the way that your life has been derailed. But I am here as living proof today that that is not true. The best is yet to come after the abuse. My life was waiting for me on the other side of leaving. My connection with myself, above all, is intact. I will never again allow anyone to get in between myself and myself. I now know the true meaning of freedom, the true meaning of self-governance. And in the realm of creation, of business, work, career, I have gone on to achieve the dreams of my heart that were impossible in that situation of abuse. I am living my life's purposes every chance that I can. I've created this coaching business. Many of us want to create these businesses doing what we love from what we feel our life's purposes are. And it's tricky to know how to go about that. So I'm going to share how I did that from the beginning of it. So today I specialize in mentality coaching and life coaching programs, but it didn't start out that way. I started out coaching music. I've always been a musician. Right out of high school, my dad made it possible for me, thank you, Dad, to study with a brilliant private coach, Dr. Joel Ewing, who is in the direct teaching lineage of Beethoven. So when you study music with me, you are 6 away from Beethoven in that direct line as well. So I studied with Dr. Ewing 5 days a week, an hour or 2 every morning for 10 years. If I wasn't out touring, I was in Dr. Ewing's music studio studying classical music, voice, written composition, theory, vocal pedagogy. I have a $500,000 music education in my brain. So I took that music training out and have had a fabulous career with it. I have had so much performance experience from touring the world, playing with bands like Maroon 5 and Bruno Mars, to singing the national anthem for presidents, to performing on live television for millions, singing in live arenas to 80,000 people. I've had major record deals, song written a bunch in Nashville for other artists. It's been a beautiful ride so far, and that's what I bring to my music clients. They're getting the technical training paired with my performance experience. And that enables me to support you fully when I'm training you to go out there and be a competitive artist in your own career. I started coaching musicians in about 2014, and I had just like 2 or 3 clients, and I was charging $50 an hour, and I wasn't advertising or anything. I was teaching them piano or voice, but it was interesting. What kept happening is that it seemed inevitably my clients and I would dig into their lives to help them figure things out. I never really stuck to just the music. It was very natural for me to gravitate towards working on the human first. I think that's come from my upbringing as a Waldorf kid. Waldorf education, if you've never heard of it, was created by the philosopher and psychologist Rudolf Steiner. And the ideology behind Waldorf is about letting the child develop at their own pace as an individual, instead of being hammered into the cookie cutter education that the public school systems force upon our children, which robs you of your magic, of your creativity. So I got to grow up naturalistically at my own pace with personalized support from my teachers. So back then in 2014, I wanted to start working with more people, but I didn't know how to do that. So I did the only thing I could think of. I printed off hundreds of flyers, and I would walk the neighborhood at night, and I would put them in people's mailboxes, on people's doorsteps. I didn't do it during the day because I was too embarrassed that I'd run into somebody face to face at their door. So I would go all hours of the night walking with my flyers. And I'd put them at grocery stores, gas stations, coffee shops. I would just put them on the sidewalk. I would put them on people's cars. I don't know if I ever got any calls from those flyers, but clients did start to come in sideways. That's the key to achieving your goals. It's not going to come straight ahead the way we expect it. I think that we're in partnership with the universe. Our side of the partnership is to have a clear intention and take action towards that intention. And I believe the universe handles the rest. I think that's our handshake deal. I have put that to use again and again and again with my goals. And that is that Goals to Reality digital course that I've designed. So as my client list is growing into 2015, 16, 17, 18, these lines just keep blurring between the music coaching that I'm technically supposed to be doing and coaching people through their lives. I couldn't make sense of how it all fit together. But then I had this interesting experience that I feel was the moment I gave myself permission to move fully into that personal coaching work with my clients. About 2018, I was volunteering at a homeless shelter in Venice. It was this songwriting program for homeless teenagers. And I would work one-on-one with them, and we would always have a government supervisor in the room with us. So I'd had a few supervised songwriting sessions with this young girl named Phoenix. And this particular day, Phoenix really opened up to me and was quite upset about a personal situation where she had been out sleeping on the streets and she had run into her mother, who was also homeless and was addicted to crack. And I sat with her and I held space for her and I allowed her to share this deep upset, and I tried my best to help her put those feelings into her songwriting. And the supervisor pulled me aside after and she said, "We've got a problem. You cannot get personal with them. This is a songwriting program. You cannot ask about their life. You have to stick to the guidelines of the songwriting program." And I couldn't believe it at the time because I thought, you clearly don't understand what songwriting is. You have to get personal. You have to get into it. You have to pull your material from your life. That's how you write songs. And you have to have those conversations. But it wasn't appropriate there, apparently, in that BS government program. But she said to me, "Have you ever thought about being a life coach? Because that's really what you're doing. You're really not sticking to the music so much." And I was super offended in the moment because I felt like I was being fired for doing a bad job. But what she said was actually pointing me towards my true life's work and to offer it in addition to my music work. So it was like a confirmation from spirit that that was the path that I was supposed to take. And that's what I've gone on to do. But music therapy, what I call music therapy, is still an aspect that I offer. So music and voice therapy programs still work for you, whether you're a musician or not, because concepts in music do a lot to unlock things that are going on inside of us in a very therapeutic and powerful and life-changing way. One of my clients, a singer who's been working with me for 5 years now, her therapist actually recommended that she have these sessions with me twice a week as part of their work together, because we are literally working on her voice, and it is figuratively and emotionally unlocking these areas in her life of finding her own opinions, of giving her courage to speak her truth, allowing her to express herself in a more vulnerable way in her marriage. So it's all intertwined, and I really bring you that holistic approach that I was raised with. I nurture the person first before we apply any craft. So whatever it is you work with me for, I'm looking at you, and it's not about fixing you. We are polishing the diamond that is already there. It's not a coach's job to fix anything that's broken. It's a coach's job to pull the best out of you, to push you out of your comfort zone, to be that cheerleader that you need on the sidelines to go after this joyful life that you were born for. So as my business became official, I added one more key ingredient to everything I was doing, which is the social media connection, putting out free content with my concepts and my programs. And I really believe in the free aspect of what I do. I think it's really important to give people free information. I think that that free aspect builds a trust between us. It builds that relationship, and it helps you feel comfortable when you do make the decision to invest in our work together. So that's a bit of what the journey's been. And I have to say that I never imagined that my work would reach the level that it's at today. I still do work with a handful of personal clients, and I have spots open up now and then. So if you'd like to get on the wait list for that, you can contact me through the website, lucywalsh.com. But I am now moving into this exciting realm of designing and releasing my digital courses. And it's necessary because, yes, my personal time is capped, but my client demand is steadily growing. And so just like when I was little and I realized the power of that record button on the silver boombox, in recording and releasing these digital courses, I am now able to help more people times infinity. There's really something for everybody. I have had such a good time, such a blast designing and now putting the finishing touches on a few that are about to be announced. There's my media training and public speaking crash course I just finished. I'm really proud of the love and intimacy program I'm finishing up. There are courses on the abuse recovery and healing the PTSD that we were discussing, and my Goals to Reality boot camp that I mentioned earlier. It's all happening. This is the place to be. And I can't wait to bring you each new episode in this first season of the podcast. I want to hear from you. Please reach out. Can't wait to meet you all. And I think I'm supposed to ask you to rate, review, and follow and subscribe to this podcast and pass it on. It is so, so helpful in sharing the love with people times infinity. And I'm going to end by saying that each and every one of you is worthy, is capable of this joyful life. The Joyful Life Guide is here for you. I'm here for you. I love you all. I will see you next time.